signal is still flashing on the Bitcoin chart, while the price is still rejecting from this critical area of resistance, while a new trading setup is revealed on this altcoin chart, which I'll talk about later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before getting into the Bitcoin charts today, we need to take a look at the Bitcoin news today, because just yesterday we saw a massive net outflow of around 145 million US dollars from the spot Bitcoin ETFs. And so, of course, we're continuing to see these net outflows, which is causing some short-term bearish price action for Bitcoin. Because basically, anytime where we see a net outflow, that is essentially selling pressure. That is the Bitcoin ETFs dumping Bitcoin in order to pay out the outflows in US dollars, because investors are basically withdrawing their money in US dollars from the Bitcoin ETFs, at least at the moment. And so this is something to consider moving forward. At least while we're seeing these net outflows once again, we're likely going to see a bit of short-term bearish price action, as we've seen over the last 1 week or so. But if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin charts today, looking at the 4-day time frame, and over the last couple of days, this chart has not really changed all that much despite the short-term pullback. Because at least as of right now, the Bollinger Bands indicator is still massively squeezing together, still contracting here on the 4-day time frame, which means the Bollinger Bands width indicator is still at very low levels, the lowest levels that we've seen in a long time. And historically speaking, this only happens when a massive volatile move is building in the price of Bitcoin, likely coming very soon. And usually these volatile moves are 20 to 30% moves in the price of Bitcoin, or even bigger sometimes. And oftentimes, the longer the Bollinger Bands squeeze together, the bigger the volatile move. So we are really building a massive move that could begin basically any moment now. And for as long as the price holds above these previous lows, which are sitting at around $60,000 based on the candle closes, or the actual candle wick low is sitting at around 56,000, for as long as Bitcoin holds above 56K, technically speaking, we can still remain in the larger bull market, in the larger bullish trend. And I got a few comments in recent videos here on the channel asking how are we possibly in a bull market if the price has been basically consolidating sideways over the last few months. That's not very bullish. Well, that can happen from time to time, even during a larger bullish trend or a bull market. And we've actually seen that before in this very bull market around 1 year ago. Because basically since around the middle of April all the way until around the middle of October, so roughly around half a year or so, we actually saw a massive sideways consolidation that happened during this very bull market. And so if we're measuring that out, for around 190 days, the price of Bitcoin basically went sideways, went down and up again. And we saw short-term bearish trends, short-term bullish trends, vice versa, for around 190 days during this bull market. But the important thing was that we never actually broke below the previous significant low that we made in the price. We actually held that low right there. So that will be important for Bitcoin if we retrace lower in the short term. We need to hold above at least 56,000 at the lowest point. If we start breaking below that point, then we could potentially start talking about the end of the bull market. But at least as of right now, we have not yet confirmed that, because for all we know, we could just be within another massive sideways consolidation, which could continue even over the next couple of months, like what we saw back here. And that does not necessarily mean the end of the bull market, because if you thought that back then, obviously you would have sold at like $25,000 or $30,000 per Bitcoin. And if you sold right there rather than just holding, obviously you would have missed out on a massive gain over the next 1 year or so. And so that is why it is very important to actually wait for confirmation signals rather than just straight away assuming that the bull market's over at the first sign that the bull market could be over. Because once again, if you made that mistake right here, you missed out massively. But with that being said, if we're taking a look at this daily Bitcoin chart, as I've actually been warning about over the last 1 to 2 weeks, we have seen the spike in the DXY, which is more of a bullish trend at the moment in the DXY, which is bearish for Bitcoin, as I have been warning about here on the daily time frame, once again over the last 1 to 2 weeks. But it's also important to understand that the trends here on the daily time frame are more of these shorter term bullish and bearish trends that sometimes last for just a few weeks, sometimes up to a few months. But ultimately, these shorter term bullish and bearish trends make up the much larger bullish trend, also known as the bull market. So once again, even during a bull market, we can see short-term pullbacks and short-term bearish trends during a larger bull market. It's just right now at the current stage in the market, we're clearly within a bit of a short-term bearish trend, once again, as I've been saying recently here on the channel. And if we're taking a look at this daily Bitcoin chart right here, we can see over the last couple of days, we actually saw a retest of this previous area of support, which is once again now acting as resistance. And I've been talking about that once again recently here on the channel, sitting in between around 67 to 68,000. I said the moment we break below that level, that should become new resistance. And it would actually be a bearish signal, at least in the short term, if the price comes back up and retests that level to confirm it as new resistance, which is what has now happened. Because as we can see here, we did see that slight bullish relief over the weekend, which was expected to retest this area. And now we've rejected from that area, once again confirming it as resistance as what we've seen previously. And the last time this happened, we actually saw a further pullback, at least in the shorter term. And if we're taking a look at the VPVR indicator, the volume profile indicator, we can see that we had a massive cluster of traded volume right around 67 to 68,000, once again acting as resistance. And the next major cluster to the downside of traded volume is sitting in between around 63 to 64,000 approximately. And so basically in between around 66,000 and 64,000, we have a gap in the volume profile indicator, which basically means the price is likely going to move very quickly in that area. And we've potentially already seen that move over the last one day, because we did actually see a candle wick to the downside down towards around 64,500 right here. And you will notice in the volume profile indicator, that is only just above where the next cluster of volume starts, at around just above 64,000. And so once again, that is the next major area of support to pay attention to on the Bitcoin chart, which so far we've bounced just above. And the resistance to pay attention to is once again still sitting in between 67 to 68,000. And even if we break back above 68,000, we still have a massive area of resistance in between 72,000 to 74,000. And as I've been saying recently here on the channel, the moment we started to break below around 67,000, that was the moment where we could start flipping more bearish again, at least in the short term, and especially when that was coinciding with the DXY spiking to the upside. So once again, the short-term trend, also known as the pullback, basically, the short-term trend is bearish, but this is potentially still occurring within a much larger bull market when we're zooming out. And if you want to trade these moves in the price of Bitcoin or any other crypto, personally, I take those trades over on Bybit. So I'll make sure to leave a link to Bybit down below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link down below this video to make a Bybit account and deposit on that account, then you can get up to a $30,000 deposit bonus, but only if you use that link down below this video. And also, if you use that link below this video, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim an exclusive 200 USDT position airdrop, but this is limited time. In around 14 hours, this runs out. And in order to claim this free 200 USDT trade on Bybit, all you need to do is simply make a Bybit account using that link, make a deposit, and claim the airdrop. And so if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, or preparing for the next trading opportunity, you might as well get set up ready to go right here using that first link down below this video once again. But for whatever reason, if you cannot access Bybit or if you cannot KYC on Bybit, there is also Bitflex, which is another crypto exchange similar to Bybit, but you don't need KYC for Bitflex. And so I'll also make sure to leave a link to Bitflex down below this video as an alternative crypto exchange. And if we're taking a quick look at the short-term price action for Bitcoin, we can see obviously we're no longer in the weekend, and over the weekend, as expected, we saw relatively tame price action, low volatility, and we did indeed see that slight bullish relief over the weekend as expected, with that short-term bullish divergence playing out here on the 4-hour time frame. But like I also said recently here on the channel, expect low volatility over the weekend, but when we enter into the new week, we're likely going to see the volatility pick up, because usually during the week on the weekdays, that's where we see a lot of volatility, and already we have started to see more volatility now that we're on a weekday. And so I no longer expect this short-term bullish divergence to play out, because once again, it already played out over the weekend, and now that we're during the week, expect more volatility. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, we can see over the last one day, the price actually grabbed a lot of liquidity to the downside, which was sitting at around 64.6K to 65K, which I mentioned recently here on the channel. We have a lot of liquidity in that area. But just recently, over the last one day, there has been a new level of liquidity actually building to the upside just in the short term here at around 67.3 to 67.4K approximately. And so it is actually possible that the price in the short term at least could come up to that level of liquidity to take out a lot of those positions, considering we have around 8 to 900 million, nearly $1 billion of liquidations sitting right at 67.4K. Which basically means we could possibly see another retest of this area of resistance before potentially seeing another rejection, considering we still have a lot of resistance in this area. So overall, at least in the short term, we're technically looking more bearish than bullish, at least for now, in terms of the trend and momentum in the short term. And with that being said, taking a quick look at Ethereum on the daily time frame, and right now the price of ETH is trading below this 38.2% Fibonacci level of support, which was sitting at around 3480. And as of right now, and just over the last one day, we've actually seen a candle wick to the downside, pretty much exactly to this 50% retracement level, acting as support at around 3350. And so once again, 3350 is still acting as strong support, at least in the short term here. But if the price were to actually break below 3350 with candle closes below 3350, then in that case, we could potentially see a move down towards this golden pocket area of support, sitting in between around 3180 to 3220. But at least for now, 3350 is still the level of support to pay attention to, because we're still finding a lot of support at that level. And as for resistance, we still have a lot of resistance at around 3650 approximately. And just like Bitcoin in the short term, Ethereum is just following along with a short-term bearish trend. So once again, in the short term, the trend is more bearish than bullish, at least as of right now, as we can clearly see, similar to what we saw back here. And if we're taking a look at the 12-hour time frame, obviously ever since we saw that close to oversold signal here in the 12-hour Ethereum RSI, we did actually see a bounce back to the upside over the last couple of days, but then we saw another perfect rejection from this exact golden pocket area of resistance, which is sitting in between around 3.6K to 3650. And as we can see, we saw a rejection pretty much exactly from that resistance, which is still acting as strong resistance as expected. And so just in the short term, expect more resistance around that area. And if we can close this 12-hour candle back above around 3450, then it's possible we could still find a lot of support at around 3450 if we can quickly get back above that level very soon. And we also have a potential bullish divergence forming right now here on the 12-hour time frame, because at least as of right now, there is higher lows forming in the RSI, while lower lows are potentially forming in the candle closes in the price. But as of right now, this has not yet been confirmed. It's just something to potentially pay attention to. And with that being said, speaking of bullish divergences, obviously this previous bullish divergence on the 4-hour time frame for the price of ETH already played out very nicely over the weekend, similar to the short-term bullish divergence for Bitcoin. Because as always, a bullish divergence most commonly plays out in the form of either choppy sideways price action or a slight bullish relief. And usually here on the 4-hour time frame, a bullish divergence plays out over just a few days or so, a couple of days usually, because after just a couple of days on the 4-hour time frame at least, these bullish divergences basically start wearing off. And if we're taking a look at ETH BTC on the weekly time frame, this is Ethereum versus Bitcoin on the larger scale, and we can see that right now ETH BTC is still clearly within a massive bearish trend, as we've seen over the last couple of years, because we've actually just recently, just a few weeks ago, put in a new lower high and a rejection again from this same massive descending line of resistance. And now, of course, even during this larger bearish trend, we can see short-term bullish moves here and there. So in the short term, some days here and there, Ethereum might be outperforming Bitcoin. But overall, when we're zooming out, looking at the bigger picture, Bitcoin is simply doing better than Ethereum, at least for now. And we can only flip that around if we see a major breakout on this chart above this line of resistance, which at least for now has not happened. And if we're taking a quick look at the price of Solana, we can see over the last one day, we continued that short-term bearish trend with a break below this critical area of support, sitting in between around 140 to 144. And first of all, the moment we started to break below 160, that was the moment where I flipped much more bearish in the short term for Solana, expecting a continuation of the short-term bearish trend. So the moment we broke below 160, we quickly saw a move to the next area of support exactly as expected, down towards 140 to 144, and then we bounced from that level. But as I warned about a couple of days ago here on the channel, if we break below 140, expect a quick move down towards around 128, because that is the beginning of the next major area of support. And what did we just see? We saw a move below 140, and the moment we started to break below 140, we saw a quick move down to exactly 128, which is exactly where we bounced from. And so, for example, if you had some conditional orders set up to open short positions once we break below 140, if you took advantage of this move and closed the short at 128, or even if you traded the other way around and looked at 128 to buy or open a long, either way, you would have done very well here based on the analysis that I've been sharing here on the channel. And as of right now, 140 to 144 should now become a new resistance now that we're trading below that area. But even if we see a breakout back above 144, then in that case, we still have strong resistance at around 160. And ultimately, I'd like to see a breakout back above 160 in order to actually start flipping more bullish again in terms of the trend and momentum. So at least for now, even if we see a bit of a bounce here, we're still technically within a short-term bearish trend. And now for a potential trade setup on another altcoin, which is Chainlink. This is Link versus the US dollar on the 3-day time frame. And personally, I think Chainlink actually has some solid fundamentals. It's one of the top altcoins out there. But with that being said, any top project, of course, has short-term bearish price action here and there. Even Bitcoin has the occasional bear market every few years. And so no matter how good the fundamentals of the crypto is, even though it could be a great crypto, of course, from time to time, it can be bearish. And as of right now, Chainlink's actually forming a massive bearish head and shoulders pattern on the 3-day time frame. This is a huge bearish pattern, but this only confirms if we see a confirmed break with candle closes at least on the daily time frame, ideally a 3-day or a weekly candle close below this neckline, which is sitting at around $13. And at this stage, the formation stage of the pattern is basically complete. We've already seen the left shoulder, the head, and the right shoulder completely formed. But once again, it is not yet confirmed or in play because we have not yet actually confirmed a break below the neckline. So that is important to understand. But if we end up seeing a confirmed break below this neckline, below around $13, then in that case, that would actually set up a fairly large bearish price target for this head and shoulders pattern. And if we measure out that bearish price target, that would be sitting at around $8.20. And so measuring that move from the point of the breakdown to that price target, that's more than a 30% move down. That's around a 36% move to the downside. And we also have a lot of support at around $8 to $9. And so, for example, trading a 36% move to the downside, let's just say from the break to the price target, even with a small leverage trade, a 3x leverage trade, that would double your money, double your initial money, because obviously 3 times 36% is over 100%. And so personally, with taking this trade right here, personally, I would not be using a lot of leverage because obviously when it comes to trading altcoins, they have much larger moves. So obviously using larger leverage, higher leverage, it's very likely you could be liquidated a lot easier if you're using, say, 50x leverage or something like that. And so personally, when it comes to trading altcoins, I usually like to stick to, let's just say, less than 10x leverage, usually 5x leverage or lower. But as always, this is not personal financial advice because I'm not a financial advisor and I don't know your personal financial situation. So this is just simply me revealing a potential trading opportunity that we could take here that I will most likely take if we confirm the trade with a break below the neckline. And once again, if you want to trade these moves in the price of any crypto, check out those links down below this video to claim those extra bonuses. And if you want to actually know how to trade crypto, no matter if the price is bullish, bearish, or chopping around sideways, you can profit from all of that price action by watching these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions and short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.